Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of appreciation to Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Blue Ridge Ranger, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Chris Hillman, Dank, Dave Rakia Gafford, David Robinson, David Wayne Foster, Dick Earth Skeptic, Edwin Johnson, Owen Jennisons, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin, Henrik86, Joshua Balsimo, Kirsten Smith, Liam Nedrick, Life is Short, Maria Neelands, Missouri Bear, Muted, NA Literalist, Nathan Thompson, Nigh Rob H, Skeptic936, Steve ALM, Texas Mike, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, The Real Gabster, Tina Baker, Unbelievable Productions, and Windrider. So another massive thank you to all of you who do support me on Patreon. Now we are joined, let's have a quick look, by Neil in G+, Discord rather, so I'll raise the mic on him. Hopefully we'll get a conversation going in the not too distant future. Hello.
Yeah, it dropped out. I'm driving through Virginia right now.
Good stuff.
You're on Discord though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the panel.
But that's the level now.
So, Travis, repeat what he said. Something about if we all lived in a container, what?
He basically said that people are saying that if we were in a contained environment, we would be suffocating because of the toxic gases, everything else.
So they don't know about all the different cycles and how the plants take
right,
carbon dioxide.
No filtration. Right, yeah.
Show him a bottle garden. That'll soon shut him up.
I remember going to school and they were telling me that plants love that stuff and they convert it.
Yeah, following on from yesterday's theme, that was one of the videos I watched yesterday from that dude Thunderfoot. He's debunking this claim that you need to, for an $80 bracelet made out of carbon, they're punting the idea that you're taking carbon out of the air. And while that might be the case, you're using something made of carbon. That's the job of a tree, right? That's what it does.
Hang on, they're actually selling a bracelet for $80 to be one of these people that thinks they're actually doing something.
Yep.
Oh my. Boy. I know when I was researching my greenhouse design that I ran across people who were introducing that in their greenhouse to help the plants grow faster.
Yeah, of course. That's why you build them.
Crazy. They're the real science deniers at the end of the day, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a topsy-turvy world of pseudo-scientists and their followers calling us science deniers when they don't have any science. It's a weird state of affairs, right?
Yeah, well, when you say, I want to investigate your claims, and they know that all their claims were based on a model, not in reality, that things would leak out, no pun intended there. And so they have to say we're the deniers when they have to back up their model, which doesn't represent reality.
Right.
I mean, the question you ask about the geometric physical horizon is a real good one. You're saying just show it to us so that we can believe what you're saying is true because you've shown the evidence. And they keep punting it down and saying, well, it's there. And the latest, like I said, they say it's underwater, which got a belly laugh out of me. And it's refracted when their own site says that the objects below it are loomed up above it. It's not the horizon that's being refracted. I mean, no matter which way they turn, they die if we just cite their own sources.
Yeah, their own argument isn't an argument, it's a concession. They don't appreciate that. They think that throwing back the demolition of their argument is somehow a defence. For example, you've got Rumpus saying things like, well, it only exists in the maths. Well, that's not a defence. That's a concession of the reality of their worldview. It only exists in the maths. It doesn't exist in reality. You can't see it. You can't measure to it. Can't do geometry with it. Only exists in maths. Not a real thing. Well, what does that tell you? It tells you that we don't live on a sphere. If we did live on a sphere, you would definitely see a geometric horizon. Because you'd be on a sphere with a geometric horizon. That's the claim that they make in the mainstream. Now, we argue against us not seeing a geometric horizon, which is absolutely bananas. But in the same way, we argue about not seeing Coriolis effect. Because they don't have any to demonstrate, we point that out and they use it as a defence. Well, we're not supposed to see Coriolis effect, the very thing that's supposed to prove Earth spins. Well, we're not supposed to see a geometric horizon, the very thing that's supposed to block boats and buildings, proving we're on a sphere. That's their defence. It's pathetic. So people who come here are going to hear that. They've got half a brain, they'll recognise how stupid it is.
Well, don't forget gas pressure without a container.
Yeah, exactly.
That one there too.
Yeah, the list goes on and on and on. But, you know, what can you do other than bang the same drum?
Well, I do love it when they have to pretend they're winning by conceding.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of feedback with my mic open?
A lot can be backed up by what? Say that again.
I said, is there a lot of feedback with my mic open?
No, you seem fine.
Or ambient noise? Do you have a lot of my truck noise?
No, it's fine. It's actually quite good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, again, one of the interesting shows to have would be to take all of the terms that they have redefined, like this whole geometric horizon, and you guys do a great job talking about what is the horizon. The horizon is where you have the apparent meeting of the sky and the ground. Well, you don't have that on the geometric because there's no visible meeting of those things, so you can't have a horizon. So I've always wondered why they don't just, or why Andrew Thomas Young didn't just simply call it a geometric curve, right? You can get away with that. You can get away with that claim that there's a...
They have. They just drop off the geometric bit. They call it Earth curve. What are they talking about when they say Earth curve? Give you a hint. It's the geometric horizon that they don't have. Is that a subtle hint?
Right, but my point is that they have to redefine and the horizon in that term, geometric horizon. It doesn't fit and comport with the definition of a horizon. So you can't use that term, but they still use it because they've redefined it. And that's basically what they do with all of the terms in terms of proving or theorizing or any of those terms that they hijack for their pseudoscience.
Travis, this is where they come up with the nonsense that it would be visible if there was no atmosphere.
Right, you have to completely create Narnia to prove your point.
Yeah,
because we don't live in a world where there's no horizon, so you can't you can make anything up. Well, in a world where well, yeah, imagine. That's the whole thing of it doesn't exist.
I see what you're saying, though. You're saying where the horizon is defined, and they define it in the mainstream rhetoric, if you just do a Google search, as a geometric horizon. Now, given that we've debunked that, they can't have one anymore. They've only got one road to take, which is to redefine what a horizon is. So now they split that horizon into two. Well, the geometric horizon is one we don't see, and the apparent horizon, redundant, all horizons are apparent, is a second horizon that we do see that's based on a geometric horizon once I assume Earth's a sphere. But we don't ever see the one that I'm basing my assumption on. That's what they've got to say. So they turn what is defined as the geometric sphere edge into a non-position you can't see, but the position you can see is based on it. It's just a massive leap in terms of begging the question. Same as 7/6R, terrestrial refraction, mathematical based. It's only in existence in the maths. Same as their horizon now. So they don't have something that can block boats and buildings. It's not physically possible by their own standards here in the trenches. Now, back in the real world, not in trench level, they still have it defined as the physical edge of the Earth blocking boats and buildings. That's what it is. They just deny it here. That's all they do. They'll deny it until they figure a way around it. Hey, Paul.
That should be better.
Right, yeah, and that's what I've been saying on my channel and the discussions that I've been having is that and I can't remember who I was saying this to, but it threw him for a loop because I basically, I think it was Pete Shea, I made this statement. I said that the horizon is both. It's geometric and what we understand to be as apparent. So when I'm making calculations, the one thing that I've said is that the line that we see out there where the water ends, that we call the horizon, what creates that line? What creates that?
Not physical geometry, and that's the point. It's not being created by a physical geometric sphere edge. And it must be created by a physical geometric sphere edge if you're going to assert that we've got a physical geometric sphere edge to do geometry with. And it's not that. We've debunked it. End of argument, really.
I agree, but the thing that I've said in my channel is that we haven't had anybody on either side do, which is what I'm going to try to do in July with BMLSB and Joe Mama, is get a boat and set it on the horizon for us, because then at that moment, the horizon is geometrical. We know where the boat is. As best we can, it's lined up on the horizon that we see as well. So at that moment, this is what I've said. The horizon is always geometrical. That is, if I'm standing on the beach and I'm looking out and I see that horizon, that has a distance from me. I just don't know it because I have no corresponding team member out there on that horizon to verify where it's at. And if you're going to have someone, if you're going to have a baller make the claim that that is exactly what the predictions show us, then you have to verify it. And the only way you can verify it is to have someone out there on a boat. Otherwise, it is just a mathematical expression.
Verifying that you're at an arbitrary position verifies a geometric measurement to the boat. Now, if you're saying the horizon is in the same position as the boat, then you're arbitrarily assigning a geometry to the horizon because of a coincidence of a position that you can see on that given moment, on that given day, with that given atmospheric conditions. Well, that doesn't make the horizon a physical location. It isn't. The piece of water that you sat on, you could claim that's physical. My point is that you can have boats on the horizon. Go and check out Dean Wright's videos, recent videos that he's done, where he's saying, here's a black swan. This is a boat on the horizon, and he gives you the details that he's looked up online in terms of the distances, and says, for the sake of argument, this one's at 3 miles, this one's at 7 miles, this one's at 9 miles. They're all on the horizon. So what are you going to tell me? That the boat that you reach the point that you're observing, if it's a nice clear day, what are you going to account for it being observed with? A pair of binoculars with a higher diffraction limit, your eyes with a lower diffraction limit, which might bring it closer. if you've got a clear enough day that you haven't got atmospheric conditions between you and that point that you're describing now as having a physical geometric position to measure to. It doesn't. It's just as simple as that, Travis. I hate to disagree with you, but it's not got geometry. It's claimed to, it needs to, but it simply hasn't. I can tell by the stony silence you're not impressed. Or he's crashed his truck. One or the other.
I'm impressed with your knowledge.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Lightwater.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to go on because I was I caught a little bit of the last part of that.
Yeah, you are getting a crap signal now, to be fair, if you can hear me. Anyway.
I'm sorry, Nathan. I'm sorry. Did you hear what I said?
No, you're coming in and out.
Oh, okay. How about now?
You're doing okay now.
Yeah, I had to take my headphones off because I was going through a weigh station for the truck and I couldn't have my headphones on. But so I only caught a little bit of what you said. I tried to put you on speaker. If you don't mind, you can repeat yourself.
Yeah, sure. So Dean Wright's got videos, as have dozens of people, there's probably hundreds of examples, where he distances various boats at various distances that are all on the horizon, quote unquote. Well, the arbitrary position that you assign would depend if you've got a clear enough day, and assuming there aren't enough atmospheric artifacts to bring the horizon closer, your horizon will be dependent on the aperture of the camera or telescope or eye, if you're going to base it on that. So you've got a position where, how are you going to arbitrarily assign something that has got so many different things that are going to attribute where it actually lies, and that may change depending on what you observe it with. So this position definitely doesn't have geometry, as you asserted.
I agree. I agree with you. I guess what I mean is that if I have one observation where I have a boat on the horizon and I know where that boat is, I have its coordinates, then I can say where that boat is geometrically to me at that moment, even though
and I agreed.
A platform.
No, I agreed. I said, yeah, you're doing the geometry to the position you've got the boat at, which is going to be a physical location where the boat is at in the water, and you can say the water it's sat on has got a physical location, and you can apply geometry. No worries. But that position doesn't represent the horizontal line, because you could have something at varying distances, and you can push the line to varying different points depending on what you're observing it with.
Yep. And that's the second thing that I came to yesterday when I was thinking about it, because I wanted to get a second boat with BMLSB and Joe Mama, and have that boat at say Bo BMLSB is on the shoreline of the Black Swan, right? So he's looking at habitat and he's looking at Hilltop, and we've got Joe Mama on the horizon, and then our second boat is 60 degrees from that on the horizon. It could be a completely different distance. Yeah,
correct. And you're not necessarily going to figure out what causes the horizon in that set of circumstances. You're absolutely doing the opposite. You're debunking its claim of geometry, which it must have if we're on a sphere.
Yes.
So yes, I see your point now. Yeah, very good.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, very good. We were actually making the same point. I didn't realise till the end, but we're actually both on exactly the same page.
Okay,
we're saying the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, I actually came to that realization about 2 weeks ago. I had SE Montreal on, and he and I were talking on my stream, and I pitched that to him. I said, I've noticed that when I'm taking images and then I've got my other camera on Platform Grace, and Platform Grace is not in an inferior. So I've got two different platforms at, I'll just say a 60 to 70 degree angle from each other. There's a distance between them, but they're both on the horizon. So if I give my my variables for temperature, water temperature, air, all that stuff in my location, you would have to apply that those temperatures and measurements to every single location. And if you're going to be clinical, they all have to be at the same distance. Otherwise, you're going to run into conflicting distances.
Yeah, that's correct. And their assertion of 7/6R, this baseless assertion based on a radius value, in order for them to actually pad that out with any sort of evidence, they'd have to take measurements. Oh, you're making a load of background noise, Travis.
Yeah.
You'd have to pad that out with measurements every foot between you and the target as a glober, not for us, to make that assertion. In other words, if you're going to back it up with data, you're going to have to show the transition at every stage between you and that target to claim that you've got light bending at the rate of 7/6 of the radius of the presupposed spherical Earth. Well, you're never going to do that. No one's ever going to do that. So they just say, it just basically works. That's just, we'll just use that. After telling you all about how atmospheric conditions actually apply, they'll then use their old switcheroo, change the briefcase, open one up that's got 7/6R and say, this will do.
Yep, exactly.
Well, since they can't ever show the physical geometric horizon, then they can't prove light is bending at 7/6R.
Precisely. It's the third step in a begging the question, triple your trouble fallacy. So you've got assume Earth's a sphere, assume light bends at 7/6 of that sphere value, assume that the geometric horizon is moved based on 7/6 of the presumed radius of a sphere Earth that you can't measure to. So it's a triple your trouble begging the question fallacy.
They do have a number for it, though. It's in Andrew Thomas Young. He says the refraction is 1.32. And someone on the previous show converted that. So that would put the geometric horizon in the BLMSB 69's video at 3.47 miles rather than 1.23. So either way, it doesn't work.
Right. But of course, that would be akin to what we discussed at the end of yesterday's show, which is in and affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. If the Earth is a sphere, then you will have a distance to horizon that is x. We have this distance to horizon at x, and you're saying their x includes begging the question at 7/6R, pushing it out by a little bit of a distance in the black swan image. But like I explained yesterday, that's the point of these affirming the consequent arguments that we get all the time with the begging the question fallacy as their base, which is to say that you will brush past the P statement if the Earth is a sphere. Now, in this example, we're utilising their own trick against them by using modus tollens. So we're saying, okay, if the Earth is a sphere, every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in the feet. And it isn't. Earth's not a sphere. And you can't get around it because they start all of their premise, every premise they present, with that P statement as Earth being a sphere. Now, when they try and get around it by saying, well, no, if Earth's a sphere, in other words, the only way around it is to turn modus tollens into an affirming the consequent. Well, as soon as they do that, I would cut them off at the knees and say, well, no, we're not going to beg the question that the Earth's a sphere just because our modus tollens takes that notion apart. That does in no way justify suddenly begging the question as a rebuttal. It doesn't.
Yeah, they want to jump to the refraction math when they haven't even proven the first part.
Yeah, in other words, turn modus tollens into an affirming the consequent. Well, if Earth's a sphere, as you present in your modus tollens argument, and then debunk soon after, if Earth's a sphere, then we will have a radius value, and we can base a terrestrial refraction value on that, and we can move the horizon with that to place the horizon in a not actual position that we can never see, and base the maths of the measurement of the one we do see on that which we don't. And that's perfectly reasonable because I've only begged the question 3 times. It's like, no, that's not reasonable in the slightest. I would stop them at the very first sentence. If they start posing modus tollens back to me, they will only ever formulate it into an affirming the consequent, so I'd stop them. Say, no, you don't get to beg the question. Just because we've demolished your premise with this modus tollens argument doesn't mean that suddenly you can beg the question justifiably as a response. You can't, and I'll never let them.
Perfect, love it. And then they keep adding on. Then they say, well, a plumb line is vertical at 90 to the center of the Earth, and if you're 100 miles away, it's plumb over there, and it's because of gravitational. And so they said, what? I mean, they bring in so much jargon, words that have been out there for years and years. And when they combine them together for the normal person, it's like, oh yeah, gravity. Oh yeah, this plumb. It must be then, even though it doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Paul Hall and 10th Man, together with Chocolate Sane. How you doing, Chocolate? In G+. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Hello, hello, hello.
And we're also joined by a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, 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 what ho?
Hello, hello, hello. Any evidence?
Oh, I forgot.
What's up, Chad?
Hey, Arwin. Let's get the hellos out of the way and then we'll start housekeeping. Hello, Arwin.
Hello.
I think since Travis is here, I think you need to do gravity first. Just do gravity first.
Fine, that's not an issue with me. Any scientific evidence of the reification fallacy that is gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
The reification fallacy that is gravity.
Can't lie, I did kind of miss that.
Any evidence of a physical...
No.
Okay, no. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
Not from Travis's boat.
He's in a truck at the moment.
Well, his future boat.
Future boat. Oh, okay. The one discussed in the pre-show.
Not truck, not boat, not anything, not plane. There's no curve.
This stuff is flat. Sorry.
Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Hey, Tony.
No,
Was
can't hear
that
him.
Paul DeGrasse Hall talking?
Hold on, just one sec. Hey, Sleeping Warrior. Maybe not. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Hey.
Hey, hey, hey.
Sorry, my settings are all wrong. Have I missed the reification question about gravity?
Yeah, you have, yeah.
Oh, can we ask it again?
Maybe at the end.
Okay, then.
Can you, on your potato, can you, on your mic, double click that graphic equalizer and put it back in the middle? It sounds horrendous. The little square with the red dot in the middle of it.
Is that better?
Yes. Moving on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Yes, it's over there.
No.
No.
It's over there.
I control Nathan.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Debbie. That's enough. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, they're all observation based.
It's wondrous.
I don't think they have any plans trying it out at some point. I don't think they have any plans just yet.
Well, they've proven it through the wondrous method.
Any evidence?
What do you mean, like the wonderful world of science? Kind of like the wonderful world of Disney?
No,
Is
that's
that
like
what
the
Becky
wonderful
called it?
world of Oz, isn't it? You know, Oz, the Wizard of Oz is the pseudo. He represents the pseudoscientists. That's what he represents. You pull back the curtain and realise that everything they've claimed about science is actually complete lies, just so stories, and in actuality, pseudoscience. But that's pulling back the curtain, like in Wizard of Oz.
The Emperor's
That's
got
what
no
we're
clothes.
I heard something about the Emperor. Go ahead, Travis.
The Emperor's got no clothes.
Yeah, exactly. I think we used that for a comparison in terms of rocket launches about a month or two ago. But yeah, exactly. There's plenty of comparisons, or analogies, I should say. Moving on. Where were we? I've forgotten where we were. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
Nope.
What about the R value? Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius?
Black Swan.
Yeah. Like, why are we so outraged that they're just presupposing R? No.
Because it's claimed to be true, and we'd want proof of it, as opposed to a presupposition of it. That's a logical fallacy, Arwin. That's why.
Well, they don't seem to understand that, or
No
they
shit.
don't want to. They don't
Really?
understand why we object with R.
This is news to me, Arwin. Wow. You mean they don't understand that they're begging the question? I'm amazed to hear this.
Professor Phil
they don't
Bell
understand
definitely
why it's a
understands that.
problem. They don't understand why that's a problem.
Well, they have it on their model, and then they try to reify it into reality.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Still waiting out on that one. They can't answer that one.
All they have is time, Nathan. Of course,
Well,
doesn't time work towards entropy? But also that video I showed, time is the cause of gravity. So I don't know. I'm confused.
Yeah, time is a proportional entity when it comes to entropy. So entropy is proportional to time. The more time passes, the more entropy will take place. The more of an entropy increase you will witness, etc., etc. Proportional to time. Time's not a cause. This is conceptual. In other words, we'll define the parameters of what time actually is with integers that we arbitrarily lay down. But that's meaningless. Certainly not a cause of anything.
I just talked about that on the Early Bird show for like 15 minutes.
Cool.
You could ask that.
What time really is and how we perceive it. How would we know if the things that make us perceive time would change? How would we even realize that? And all that. Anyway.
You could ask that question to any wrestler. When he's pinning his opponent, the ref counts off once his backside's on the mat a little bit of time. Now, is time pinning the opponent, or is the wrestler on top of the other wrestler, pinning the opponent.
Yeah, did you lose because of the count, or did you lose because a guy's pinned you down? Was it time, 1, 2, 3, that caused you to lose? No.
Nathan, did you... sorry, have we finished housekeeping?
I've got one more question, I think.
Wait a minute. Before we move away, though, if the time was moving faster at his head than at his feet, then you could say it pinned him. So there you go.
Hold on. Time isn't moving. Yeah, time is something we will assign to it to give it duration. It's not moving. That's kind of farcical statement when you think about it. Now, I realise that for simplicity's sake, you can describe moving forward through time, but you can't literally do that. Nor can you move back through time, nor can you bend time, nor can you see time, hold time. It's just a concept. Ugh. Any evidence of the reification fallacy that is gravity?
Oh yeah, gravity
Scientific
is most
evidence of
definitely
what?
Gravity is most definitely a reification fallacy. It's the best example of a reification fallacy that we can give, because as we all know, reification is the concept or the process of materializing a concept. So where something doesn't actually exist, like unicorns, for example, we all can understand how unicorns have got a horn on their head, and they all get fed grain and oats and corn and all these things that unicorns that we can metaphorically describe doesn't mean they're actually real. It's the same with gravity.
Well, that unicorn's not going to live very long. You know, they need to eat grass.
Yeah. And we know that they've got to be exercised at least twice a day. And we know that if you don't feed them enough water with a special amount of hydrocarbons in it, it doesn't grow its nails properly and all that lovely stuff. Gravity's the same.
Wait a minute. The unicorns that live in my backyard that I describe in detail, he don't live on Skittles. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, yours live on Skittles. You must have a different strain of unicorn than what we have over here.
If we're done with the hypothetical unicorns as an example, that would be the conclusion of housekeeping.
Yeah, kids, don't feed Skittles to animals. It's not good.
Especially not unicorns. Not the English unicorn, anyway.
In the interest of balance and brand recognition, feel free to feed as many Skittles as you like to animals, just in the interest of balance.
Especially your mate's pets. Right, Nathan, do you want a screen share?
Yeah, sure.
Black unicorn.
But wait a minute,
I've seen this. Hold on.
So you know.
Hold on 1 second, Paul. I've seen this. Is class. Mike's all yours. Go ahead, Super Mario.
All right, there's 2 quick videos. They're only really short, and I can play them whilst I'm talking about them. What this camera operative is showing is this mill in the background, this big building. And what she does is she zooms in on the building, and the point she's making is that as she gets closer to it, it gets smaller rather than bigger. And you can see now it's shrinking a little bit. And I mean, this reminds me of Alfred Hitchcock's effect, the Alfred Hitchcock effect a little bit. I don't know whether it is that. It might not be. But it's getting smaller as she's getting closer to the mill in the background. And as she gets right on top of it, it gets really small. Now, the point she's making is that it should get bigger as you get closer to it, but it seems to be being magnified. Now, it might not be. And people have said, don't jump all over it just yet, because there may be some other explanation. So what I've done is I've looked to see whether or not there's any other videos of the same effect, showing the same effect. And this is another guy doing it in different weather conditions. But again, he's making the same point. So as he starts driving down the road, he's pointing out that the mill in the background in the opening seems to be getting smaller as he's getting towards it. Now, this guy's very slow with his drive, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit. But the point he's making is that whilst he's got his camera focused on the thing in the background, as he gets towards it, it gets smaller. You can see it. It's literally happening right now. So I'm not saying that this is definitely something that's true, but it seems to be a phenomena, seems to be being caused by getting closer to it. And it might have something to do with the way we perceive the world that we call perspective, that we didn't previously know about, but now are aware of. And I'm wondering if Rumpus could demonstrate this with an orthographic perspective hijacking, proof of nothing drawing to explain why it appears to do this, because this is certainly what seems to be a phenomena. And now that we're aware of it, maybe we can have a conversation about what's causing it. But it shouldn't get smaller as we get closer to it. So I don't know what you guys think of that. Have you seen this, and what did you think?
Well, the relation that you'd be describing would be an angular relation, and that's a completely ignored factor of life. When you're talking about the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking, curve calculator, it turns everything inside view. And for the example that you're making with these two barns, let's say they're barns, just for simplicity, the barn appears, that would be apparent size, right? To get smaller or bigger, depending on whether you're closer or farther away. Well, the apparent size, also known as angular size, would be delivered with an angle. And the curve calculator, also referred to fondly by us as the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator, would have this barn in its whole number feet and inches or meters value, would it not?
Yeah.
So if it's a 30-foot barn, it's 30 foot regardless of whether you're right on top of it, next to it, cricking your neck looking up at it, or 30 million miles away from it. It's still 30 feet. And that will not change regardless of distance. Now, if it disappears, the curve calculator will assert it's gone behind Earth curve, ignoring all angular relationships that take place, because it's taken that effect of angular relationships, otherwise known as perspective, and called those effects Earth curvature, hijacking perspective. So you'll never get them to explain this within the parameters of the curve calculator because it does not deal with perspective. The targets are given in whole numbers that do not change with distance. That would be angular size, also known as not actual size, or apparent size. So these changes are a change in apparent size. The curve calculator can't cope with that. Actual whole number sizes only.
What I do realise is that the armcore barrier that's dividing the road from the falling off the edge of it, whatever it is that's below it, obviously that gets bigger as you get closer. So that's creating some element of illusion with the size of the thing behind it. But it does really look like it's getting smaller as he gets towards it. And it's something that maybe we need to look at and just wonder, is this like a weird kind of illusion thing that's just to do with being there at that time, or is it something to do with the Hitchcock effect? Don't know. Just wanted to raise awareness to it because it's a very interesting video.
As you've reiterated your point, I'll reiterate. Go on, Travis. Go on.
Tony, if you go to the first video at 26 seconds, I thought at that point that I would say that it was towering. What do you think?
Let me do it again. The first video at 26. Well, I mean, I think that this is the reverse of the Hitchcock effect, possibly, where the Hitchcock effect is where you zoom out and you do that zoom in thing at the same time. Perhaps this is zooming in and doing something funky with the zoom at the same time to get the effect. I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, I think it's just interesting. It might not be anything, but I just wanted to mention it because she wanted explanation for it. It seems to be perspective related. It seems to be something to do with our topic. So it was worthy of showing it and just seeing what people thought. It might be nothing, but it's just interesting.
It's not nothing. Yeah. It's absolutely got a point to it. I just shouted Unitox Femu. So Glober's looking for black unicorn. ... Still nothing. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Unitox Femu. I'll reiterate my point because you've started to focus on what could cause this. Now, that's very interesting, and I'm not going to decry anybody who wants to figure out the nature of our world. That's the whole point of this. However, as I said earlier, we are talking about the apparent size of this building, are we not?
Yeah.
The apparent, otherwise known as angular size of anything, is ignored, cannot be accounted for by Earth religious mathematics. They've taken the exact effect we're going to try and figure out the cause of and called it Earth curve. So you want to know what the calculator will tell you? It'll tell you Earth curve caused this. It's only got one cause. And it's not that, is it? It's obviously angular related, not accounted for in maths, that only deals in actual sizes. So this debunks the curve calculator because it cannot compute it.
Yeah, I think the other point is that as she's getting towards it, it seems to get smaller relative to what it was when it first started. So you're watching it shrink as she gets smaller. So it's not just the apparent
angular sizes, doesn't it?
It seems to get smaller.
Hey, Anthony, can you hear me? Since you're saying it's a Hitchcock effect, is this taken north by northwest?
Oh, God.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just suggesting it reminds me.
Okay, hold on a second, Anthony.
You totally missed that.
Just one
Shut
second.
up, Tenth Man.
Hello?
Yeah,
Can nobody hear me saying just 1 second 5 more times? Vacuum is a brand name. Go ahead.
I did completely miss
You
it, Tenth.
talking
You're
to
right.
me, Nate?
Let's try that once more, hopefully without interruption. Go ahead, vacuum is a brand name.
If it gets smaller, the closer you get to it, doesn't that debunk angular size?
Or that is angular size. Do you mean debunk it? It is
Yeah,
it.
but angular size says if you get closer to an object, it gets a
No, that's not what angular size says. Number one, please don't reify angular size into an entity that can talk. No, it doesn't say anything. Angular size is the size in an angle. And what we're describing, i.e. getting bigger and smaller, that's its angular size. So does its angular size changing debunk angular size? No, that's absolutely absurd.
Okay, Nathan, don't need to get angry.
So I wasn't getting angry. Oh, do you need it with a smile?
Sounded like you
That's
were.
all right. I'll insult you with a really big smile as well. You, mate, are a complete retard. I'm not angry about how stupid you are, but to debunk an angular size relationship by demonstrating that it's actually changing in angular size, no, that's not debunking it. It's typifying it. It's describing it. It's showing it. It's not debunking it. That makes you thick. Now, do you think I'm angry about how stupid some of the people who come here, like you are? I'm really not very angry about it. I think you're absolutely stupid. Now, you can get around the fact that you've made a really stupid comment by telling me I'm angry, but I'm not angry. I'm quite happy. The people who believe in a globe like you, I am in absolutely no doubt that you think this debunks the necessity to utilise angular size in our world when that's perspective that we all see daily. And you think that needs debunking. And you think debunking it is showing it. That makes you stupid. Now, I'm not angry about that, mate. So, just for the audience's benefit, it appears that this wanker, who thinks I'm angry, has talked through me while I'm berating him the entire time. Right, Neil?
Chocolate, just going to take your hands off Nathan's ball.
Muted and booted again.
Yep. Did you not hear me speak to Neil? So he didn't want to be berated for his stupidity, did he, Neil? So he talked through every word of that, didn't he, Neil?
I can't wait to get muted.
And there he is again.
Booted.
Your name is not Neil. Triggered Fundy. There's no need to get so angry, Triggered Fundy. I'm not talking to you anymore, Triggered Angry Fundy.
I'm very calm,
You stupid
Nathan.
Triggered Fundy Angry
I'm very
Man.
calm. I'm
Please
just
shut up.
cringing.
Please be quiet, Triggered Fundy Angry Man. Your name is not Neil. How many times do I have to ask this angry triggered man to stop talking? Neil, he wouldn't tolerate me explaining how stupid he was, would he?
No, not.
No, but he felt the need to ad hom me after I pointed out just how stupid his remarks were. Right? Not angry. Pointing out how stupid you are. I take great pleasure in that. The world's not a sphere, by the way, mate.
Cringy.
The world is not a sphere, mate. You believe it is. And we do have perspective. Your claim proof of a curved Earth would be this calculator that doesn't use angular sizes. They're definitely real. We've just showed demonstrations of things changing in not actual size. That's angular size. Now, that debunks your curve calculator because it can't use those things. That would be angular size, perspective. They're not included.
Do you know what I've invented?
Sorry, I'm now giving you a point that you're ignoring and asking me if I want to know about some shite you've invented. I don't. Now, you asked me if this demonstration debunked perspective. We detailed that it didn't, and you told me not to be angry. Now I'm pointing out that that debunks your fundamentalist zealotry about living on a globe, and you want to tell me about an invention you've made. Can't you address what I've put to you? I address your nonsense about this debunking angular size when it was actually a demonstration thereof. So I've addressed your question. Now I'd like you to address my point. This debunks your curved Earth maths. It doesn't include perspective. What we have just demonstrated takes place always, without exception. That's not included in your curve maths, mate. Maybe address it, not tell me about an invention you've made, you pathetic coward.
Can I address what you've said, Nate?
What, like I've just asked you to do, given that I addressed you with it and you asked me about an invention that you've made? Yeah, it'd be nice if you addressed it, but you're an angry, triggered fundy that wants to obfuscate every point I put to you, but labour every point you put to me.
So do you want me to address it?
Yeah, third time's a charm, mate. Yeah, by putting it to you twice concisely, that technically means, yeah, I wanted you to address it. I don't want you to put a question back to me about addressing it so you can buy yourself some time. Maybe the audience will lose track of what the question is, or you can obfuscate the question, change it in some way, and not address it. Your Earth curve maths has been debunked because it does not include perspective. In fact, it's hijacked it. Third time I've pointed it out. Fourth time, you're going to ask me if you want me to have it addressed. Yeah, I do.
Well, when I said, does it debunk angular size, I didn't say it did debunk it.
No, it doesn't, you complete retard. That would be a reiteration of your point that we laboured, I addressed, and now is an obfuscation tactic to ignore my point. So no, it doesn't debunk angular size. It does debunk the curve calculator, something you've ignored 4 times. Move back onto your own point again, which has been debunked and addressed. So we're going to labour your point by stressing it again to go round in another circle, debunking it. It doesn't debunk a demonstration of it. That's absurd. I've pointed that out several times too. But further to that, it debunks the curve maths that doesn't include this effect of angular relationships. Actual sizes only, mate. 5th time I've put it to you. You haven't addressed it yet. What gives? Labour your point, ignore mine?
Tony said...
I don't give a shit what Tony said. I said it debunks Earth curve mathematics. Don't talk about what Tony said. I said this destroys your Earth curve mathematics. Address that.
Is someone going to stick up for me here? Because he keeps talking over me.
Sorry, is that an appeal to the format of the show? Every time you obfuscate away from my 6 times asking you about the fact your curve maths doesn't include perspective, and you've had a demonstration of it and claimed the demonstration debunks itself, and I've pointed out it's absurd and that it debunks curve maths because they don't include angular relationships. 6 times you've ignored it. On this occasion, you've said, am I going to get stuck up for he keeps talking, yet reiterating the same bloody question over and over and over.
Yeah, we got enough red herrings.
Answered my initial question, Nathan.
Your initial question, so we're back to labouring your point. So I've made the example and demonstrate what he's going to do, like I'm clairvoyant. No, it's just because he keeps doing it. So he keeps telling me that we need to go back to his point, that a demonstration of angular relationships changing debunks angular relationships. No, it doesn't. That's absurd. You just keep going around in the circle and ignoring my point that this debunks curve maths, which do not include this effect. You have not debunked by pointing out that we've demonstrated it. That's stupid.
I didn't understand a word of that.
Well, then get out. Then you are retarded. I couldn't be any more concise. You don't belong here if you're that stupid that you can't understand a rendition of the same question 6 times. That makes you thick. Get out. No more thickos. Like Rumpus yesterday couldn't understand a simple question that had been put to him 4 consecutive days. Now, he talked through it every single time it was put to him on those days, and when it was put to him with completely clear air, he couldn't understand the question. That makes him moronic and not worthy of being here. If you're too stupid to understand a simple question, don't come here. But if no one's going to interject that little stony silence, I'll do a few super chat shout outs. Why not? Okay, so shout out to Good Servant. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Also, shout out to Leonardo Gonzalez. Nathan, you are ace. Smash the super chat, people. Thank you very much indeed for the support, and I appreciate the sentiment. Times are tough, Leonardo. But yeah, really appreciate the support. Thank you very much.
Interesting fella, that guy.
You think so?
But he has
I don't even know what the point was. It was just red herring it.
Allow me to finish. All the times he comes on, he's got this little edgy tonality to his voice, like he's angry all the time.
They're angry at us, Tom. Destroying their model. They don't like us for that. We're just the messengers, though. Don't hate us. It's not us lying to you guys. The people who made you believe that you live on a spinning ball in a vacuum. Those are the people lying to you, not us.
If we want to talk about that video again, one of the questions I had as I was watching it, I believe that the turn in the road is at a higher elevation, and so if you think about that from a distance, you shouldn't even see the building because the road is ascending, and then when you get up to the road at the turn, you can see that the building is lower over the water.
Maybe. You'd have to assess the sight lines, like, actually there. But yeah, maybe.
Why did the video show them zooming at all? Why not just have it on one setting as you drive to it?
Well, she's not a professional. She's in her car on her iPhone or whatever, so if it's not staged, she's just messing around trying to figure out what to do and how to make it look right.
Right, but wouldn't zooming in make it bigger just by zooming?
It's the proportionality. It's the proportionality to the road you're looking past, the barrier that you're looking past, and how big it is in the frame as you approach it. So that wouldn't change with zoom. You're not going to make it overall proportionality change by zooming in. That would remain the same, right? Well, it doesn't. So, but ultimately speaking, even the fundy, not even us now, my point is that this is beyond the capabilities of curve maths. Therefore, debunking it cannot be explained, cannot be utilised, cannot demonstrate it. The only assertion it's going to make is earth curve. Now, even the fundy obfuscated this. Now we're into stepping past it and saying, well, what does cause it? I don't know, but I know they claim earth curve, though. This, if you put this through the curve maths, it'll say it's earth curve. It's only got one assertion. And it obviously isn't that, right? It's an angular relationship we're looking at. Well, it can't cope with that. And I just want us to actually dwell on that, because it's the bit that destroys their fundamentalist religion. I know we're all intrigued about the world, and we all on this panel accept that anyway. So we're like, well, why labour that? We know. Well, yeah, but the audience doesn't, and often people come here to hear the debate. So the concluding point is that this debunks curve maths, because it's hijacked this effect and called it earth curve. So anything disappearing or appearing in the distance is being brought back beyond the earth curve you've presupposed, and you run through the maths with a begging the question 7/6R terrestrial refraction, moving things with respect to the horizon that they now move with respect to the horizon. This circle jerk we need to kill, as opposed to, I appreciate everyone wants to figure out what actually causes it. But there's definitely still a Western world assertion that that's earth curve, right? Am I wrong? Have I lost the plot? People still think the earth is a sphere.
No, you're right. I mean, their whole thing is the sight on view, nothing changes in actual size. And everything you ask them, it's always earth curve, earth curve, earth curve. So if a baller saw this, he's going to say earth curve. He's forced to say earth curve.
Was this video supposed to assert somehow something about earth curve?
No, that's their only answer. That's their only answer,
chocolate,
because they doubled down on that.
Oh, okay. I was wondering how and why this would be asserted as some type of curve effect or something. I thought they just saw a cool video and wanted to talk about it.
I think what Nathan's trying to say is that perspective is being ignored, and they could only say earth curve where we can say many other things. But we're going to hold them to earth curve here because that's the only thing they could say.
What do you mean? That geometric horizon that they said that we don't see? That one?
Well, it's a thought.
What they used to call the earth curve?
Well, it's a thought.
They can't be talking about that because they say we don't see that now. So it's got to be something else. Geometric thingamajig or something.
The last guy said we can't see it because it's underwater.
I think that's evidence. I think that's evidence of atmospheric magnification, but that's just me. It's just me.
Ether band.
And is it magnification an effect of refraction? Don't misunderstand that.
No, it's not stated as an effect. There's 5 effects. There's towering, stooping, sinking, looming, and mirage. None of those are magnification. Like magnification is not one of the 5 effects. Doesn't mean it's not a real thing, but there'd be no point in trying to claim that as you could be put on it.
Right, but I think it does need to be incorporated into the categories. I really do.
Got a claim of what it's called by Cleary. Thank you for the super chat, Cleary. Says it's called optical tunneling effect. That's a new one on me. Anybody heard of that before?
Would that be something to do with the duct, the UCT?
Yeah, I've heard it before, and I've seen it before. I called it a multi-tunnel vision. Every object has a certain height, and you are in the center point. So the object disappears into the distance as if in a tunnel. As if the height is in the tunnel, a tunnel that is the height minus the view height.
Yeah, it's far more complicated than that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. If you show a perspective view with the boxes that are cascading into the center point of a view, that would be what you're describing. It looks like you're looking down a tunnel. Well, no, it's just if you draw a point on a paper like you were taught in art class and draw the lines to that center point, that's going to be the cascading down a tunnel effect. Essentially, we're just describing perspective. That's what we're talking about here, just perspective. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Now,
it only stays a tunnel with no atmospheric effects. That's right.
Yeah. In terms of the Rayleigh criteria and its application to how things will disappear into the distance at that point on the dot, if you will, in your picture, well, that is calculable based on there being no atmospheric conditions. It's just a mathematical calculation based on the aperture that you're looking through. Well, yeah, that's going to be exclusive of the fact that you could have a massive fog bank bringing the horizon, within yards. So, yeah, absolutely. But ultimately speaking, it's another real effect in life that we have to deal with and contend with. Things get smaller into the distance. Now, the effect going into or down a tunnel is also limited by how and what you're looking over. So, Life is Short, he's actually one of my Patreons, did a 7-hour presentation that got cut back down to about 6, maybe 5 hours on Ranty Flat Earth's channel. I then hacked it up into separate individual sections, maybe 4 or 5 of them, and published each individual section. And one of the sections was in terms of how that angle changes and how that tunnel changes. If you've got a dot on your page and a tunnel drawn with an unlimited angle going up, well, then that box effect is going to be nice and stretched and wide and there's nothing limiting it. But if you're looking over something, like in the picture now, what you're looking over is between you and the horizon. Well, this could be a vast distance, but it's only represented by like half an inch in the picture, whereas obviously you've got masses of sky. Well, that's a limitation of the angle. Now, if you were standing in the middle of free space and there was nothing below you, same with this picture, this distance is a far lesser distance than this distance, top to bottom. Now, that's because you've got the angle being limited by the thing you're looking over. Now, if you raise up in altitude and you've got an unlimited angle down, then obviously that broadens that effect of looking into the distance without things disappearing bottom up as you do. But as you look over something, you've got a far more limited angle over the deck, and that limits the angle and therefore causes things to disappear from bottom up because you've got a limitation to the angle, and it's that which you are calculating when you're working out the diffraction limit, i.e. the Rayleigh criterion, and that's based on angles.
You're looking in a tunnel filled with ground, and that has consequences, yes. And then kicks in the atmosphere, yes.
And all these things we're now talking about, back to my point that this isn't, this is kind of folly. It's interesting, but it's not debunking anything or proving anything. It's just, I wonder what causes it. And in the case of perspective, these aren't accounted for in a worldwide view of the world. It's just Earth curve gets in the way, it's your horizon, and that's it. And when we say, no, you've got this effect called perspective, things get smaller into the distance, we can detail and show repeatedly with calculations from the Rayleigh criterion when it will happen and why it will happen. And this explains how you have things disappear from the bottom up. It's a different cause. And it goes on a list called Flurfspective excuses for Earth curve. It's like, no, that's real. Perspective's real. No getting away from it, but it just can't be done in the Earth curve calculator because they've only got one cause. Earth curve.
Shout out to Timmy Clown and his list.
Yeah, you say fog gets in the way. Oh, atmospheric conditions aren't accounted for in Earth curve maths. They've got 7/6r, a presupposition that light bends at the rate of the radius, or 7/6 of the radius. Well, that's a presupposition of a geometric value being applied to light rays being bent arbitrarily around a curved Earth that they've presupposed. Meaningless. Nothing to do with atmospheric conditions. At all. Just a begging the question fallacy on steroids that will later be utilised for a triple your trouble fallacy of assuming that same 7/6r of the begging the question r moves the very r tangent point to a different location. It's absolutely absurd. We're so far into absurdity for this begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator. It's not even funny.
Well, it is kind of funny when you realize how farcical it is, but yeah, I get what you mean. It's not funny.
Take farce too far. When they were begging the question on steroid 7/6r, we had a good laugh about it. You haven't even got an assumed value to prove, and you're begging the question and bending light with it. That's a joke. But it stops being a joke when you're like, hold on. So you're begging the question, we've got a sphere beneath our feet, which would give you a geometric horizon, tangent point. To do this geometry, you're going to clave proves out the geometry. So we're definitely begging the question. What's that? It doesn't match. So you're going to bend light at the rate of the presupposed radius that you've begged the question of the ground we're standing on, giving you a geometric tangent point to measure to prove that we're on the tangent point based sphere Earth that you say we were when you begged the question. So that's obviously getting pretty absurd. We've bent light around at the radius. Okay. Well, now the horizon that you're bending the light at the tangent point of the presupposed Earth that we begged the question that we were standing on to give you a geometric horizon doesn't have the geometric horizon, so you're going to move it with the second stage of begging the question, which is having 7/6r of the tangent point that you can't see to move the tangent point to a different location that you can't see. It's absolutely ludicrous. And by the time I detail that, most people have glazed over and gone, this is so far beyond ridiculous. How can anybody believe this nonsense?
It gave me vertigo as you were saying it.
It's three layers of begging the question to get around the fact that we don't have a geometric physical sphere edge for a horizon.
Nice, concise summary.
Right,
Remember the picture Kiwi showed of the huge ship at the Scottish Open floating in the air?
Yeah, with the false horizon below it, a reflection of the sea above, below the boat on the actual horizon. Yes, I do.
Perspective.
I'd like to add something there, Nathan, to what you were saying. I've said this before, but I don't know if it's really gotten through to people. The claim, just for pig iron, the claim that the ballers make that light is bending down toward because of the denser air and gases at ground level, so it's bending light down over a distance. On a flat plane, if that exact same thing happened, it would give the exact same visual effect. So it doesn't prove what shape the physical Earth is. It only proves that if it really happens, that if light really is being bent down, it would only prove that light is being bent down by denser gases. Doesn't prove that the shape of the Earth is anything but flat. Doesn't disprove it, like, if you know what I mean. Because it would look exactly the same. If you're not seeing the bottom of something today, but tomorrow you are able to see the bottom of it, and then next week you can only see half of it, then that's obviously happening over a flat plane. If you know what I mean.
Right. Shout out to Rakia Life. If you don't need this money, send it back. I need new glasses. I used to see curve, now I see flat. Well, I'll have to keep your money, I'm afraid, Rakia Life, because the new glasses, they're not going to achieve that, and I'd be doing you a disservice by sending you the money back. So for that reason alone, I'm going to keep it, and I think you should thank me. No, I'm just joking. Thank you very much indeed for your super chat and your support, Rocky Alive. Really appreciate it.
Hey, to back up Brian, just hang on before you move on. Hold on. Before you move on to another topic, I just want to show you this. This is from the Walter Bislin calculator, and you got the same effect. Now, it could be more extreme in the curve of the globe model, but this is what atmospheric conditions can do under the Walter Bislin calculator, depending upon purely temperature variations in the atmosphere. And it looks like the thing on the right is the flat Earth, and the thing on the left is the globe with the same values. Now, there is an extreme difference in the two, but it's the same effect, basically. Just to back what Brian's saying.
Exactly, Paul.
Nathan, can you go to Master B while Brian's finishing his point? I've got Andrew Thomas Young saying exactly what Brian said.
Yeah, thanks, Tent. This what Paul is showing and what Tent is going to say. It's like I had a little silly diagram before. Basically, if light is can be bent down towards the ground due to down towards the denser gases, or because of the denser gases, I should say, then the visual effect will be the same. But the difference between the two is that it would always have to be a certain amount missing due to the globe, but we don't see that. Like what I mean, if we were on a curved surface, but we don't see that. We see differing amounts, and some missing, and sometimes we don't see anything missing. It's like those. One of the best examples is across that lake to Toronto. I think it's Toronto, where people will sometimes see only 3/4 of the buildings. Sometimes they see half of the buildings, and sometimes they see all of them. You know what I mean? It's like, things like that. It's like that doesn't match. No matter what they do, they can't match that. Thank you.
You got that up, Nathan?
Yes, it's on screen now.
Brian, thank you for saying that. Now, the title here is at the bottom of the whole refraction page as he describes refraction. And he's summarizing it here. And it's in bold print, calculating atmospheric, get the globe right there, refraction. But then the very next thing out of his mouth is all the discussion above deals with plane surfaces. So why would he say calculating atmospheric refraction when all of what he said above it dealt with the plane surface? Then he continues, but the Earth isn't flat. Obviously, they have to keep saying this to themselves, but he took all his calculations off of a plane, then says the Earth isn't flat. Then he says to deal with refraction in a curved atmosphere. So now he wants to talk about spheric and refraction. We have to introduce some geometrical considerations, which have been put on a separate page. The whole thing is contradictory. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Kent. And to add to all that, I've seen 2 blink tests. You know what the ballers threw out as blink tests, where they'll show what a building does look like with the water below it, and then they show it at a certain distance. Jesse Kozlowski has one, and Rhetoric has another one. And I didn't get the chance to see Jesse Kozlowski's one only for a moment, but I did see Rhetoric's one. And the funny thing about it is they never look at what is supposed to be this building behind this curve, let's just say. If you look at the buildings next to each other, it's obvious that the building that's supposed to be gone, like let's say halfway below the curve, right, this nonsense, it actually has stooping going on because it's compressed. Like on the normal building, there are 5 floors of the normal building would make up about 8 to 10 on the one that's supposedly gone over the curve. So even though there is a certain amount of blockage towards the end of it, the bottom of it, it's also compressed all the way up. And there's different levels of compression as well in it, if I remember correct. So things like that, it's just like they never look at these things. And they can't decide whether our curve is going up or going down. They can't decide whether stuff is going down behind the curve or the curve is coming up in the way of your vision. It all screams flat Earth.
How many times have you heard them say refraction can't work on a flat plane?
Countless times.
Okay, except now that I've cited their priest, Andrew Thomas Young, he says all his calculations were done on a plane.
What if you have a flat plane with atmosphere, which they say is the case because we have an atmosphere, therefore everything is refracting. So whether it's flat or not, it's still atmosphere, right?
Well, we can't have an atmosphere. Sorry, thank you. I'd say in a second.
Well, the second word you have to get out, sphere. That's what he's saying. I mean, I just read it, right? He's talking about refraction on a sphere by calling it atmosphere. So he's begging the question by that word. But he says he did it on an atmo plane.
Right. And quick shout out to Flat Earth Travolta. Anyone know how to perform an exorcism on Sean or for Sean? Question mark. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate your support.
I do. It's back to the Hitchcock puns. It took 39 steps. Too long for the show.
Sorry, Godzilla says in reply, people chatting back and forth in super chats. More power to you. Thank you very much for the support. Godzilla37 says, use a shotgun, Travolta. I don't condone that.
I have to say, 10th Man's pun was for the birds.
For the birds, boom boom. Another Hitchcock gag.
Please don't get into a frenzy.
If you're not into Hitchcock, watch more Hitchcock. Hitchcock is ace.
I love Hitchcock. I watched most of his films growing up.
Yeah, scary stuff.
I just want to cap off what we were saying before we lose the point. That you can't have an atmosphere in accordance with the globe model. You can't have an atmosphere unless you're contained.
I'm glad you've mentioned atmosphere, because 10th Man was quick to point out that it's a begging the question fallacy, right? Atmo, air, sphere, fundamentalist presupposition. So a quick shout out to Unitox Femu, and then I'll just add on another point that QE's recently made. Unitox Femu, thank you for the super chat. Nathan, you deceived me, not NASA, so pity. Nathan, you deceived me, not NASA. Okay. Thank you very much for the super chat anyway. So, Quantum Eraser recently made a point. So, the word atmosphere is a contradiction in terms. Atmo, air, has no shape. It takes the shape of its container. So, atmosphere, sphere's a shape, but it's not the shape that it can fill. In the case of the heliocentric religion, the space it can fill is space. So atmosphere is to say that gas has a shape. It doesn't. It's a contradiction in terms. Atmo, air. That's all we're dealing with. But they've got a fundamentalist presupposition that their air sticks to the outside of a spinning ball flying through a sky vacuum, violating the second law of thermodynamics. So they utilise this word, atmosphere, most people are familiar with, which begs the question of a sphere, and also is a contradiction in terms.
When is everybody going to catch on?
10 years? I'd guess. Maybe 10 years? What do we all reckon?
Well, here at the trenches, maybe 1 or 2 at the most, but most of them will never catch on.
You know, I'm sorry. You know, Al Bruni climbed that mountain and he got vertigo. Just saying.
Thank you, Paul.
Do we not think this is progressing then, this subject matter? That more and more kids specifically are finding out about it and it's becoming like fairly commonplace with the younger generations? Because I would say it is.
Yes, it is. They're asking their teachers crazy questions.
I thought Neil's question was on the trolls coming here, not the people who watch the show, listen to the show, or watch the show using their brain cells.
While we're on the subject of Hitchcock,
the general Sorry, go on, Nick.
No, I was going to make a joke. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to add on to what you said about the 10 years. I think, just to add on to that, I think 10 years is a good estimate for the general public. Not for the people we deal with, not for those people, but for the general public is a good estimate that Tide was going to be very, very different in 10 years' time than what it is now. As in the amount of people who are not believing in the globe.
Yeah, that was my sentiment. You're agreeing with me. Thank you. Great. Really appreciate the support, Brian. Also, thank you, Flat Earth Travolta, who says Sean's alter still thinks water vapor isn't a gas. Okay, I don't really understand that, but thank you very much indeed for the super chat. The tree canopy creates the optical tunneling effect, and as you come out of the canopy, the building optically shrinks. So that's a good explanation, Cleary. I like that. Yes, that makes sense. So it's the because you're driving through a tunnel of trees is essentially what Cleary's saying, and that's creating an optical illusion, so that the angular size of the building appears to be different. Only appears. It's not actual size. Just want to get that in there. Thank you very much for the super chat, Cleary.
What was your joke, Nathan? I'm interested.
Oh, I can't remember now. It's about Hitchcock. Can't remember. Let's make up an interesting Hitchcock detail. Psycho's not about a psycho. It's about a schizophrenic.
But you can think about it that way if you like.
Yeah, you can think of him as a psycho. He's actually not. He's a schizophrenic. He's not a psychopath.
I wonder if that couple who took that video that Anthony showed, if they put it in reverse, would it show the same in the rear window?
Rear window.
Sneak it in.
Go to one page. Go to one page.
Making me smile.
So it's amazing. George Muser says gravity's not a force. Literally, it's not a force. And if Chocolate wants to give the quote on the really is level, I'll wrap up my statement. Are you there, Chocolate?
What we can, we do, we must consider Newtonian gravity as a force. It doesn't mean it really is one, but we don't necessarily have to work at the really is level.
Thank you. Thank you. So you can think of it as one, but it's not. And this is the same thing happening with the citation of Andrew Thomas Young. He's pretty much saying everything I've done about refraction studies was from a plane. But if you want to think spherically, you can.
Anthony around? Because Anthony's point early on in the show is that because of the base foundation of... You there, Anthony? Because the base foundation of this is in mathematics, abstractions, this is the very essence of a reification fallacy, to turn that which is merely mathematical... And... Go ahead, Anthony. So turning that which is purely mathematical into something that's in real existence, turning that which is not concrete into something concrete, i.e. a reification fallacy. So gravity is a reification fallacy. That was Anthony's point earlier on the show. He's not around, unfortunately, other than with a bit of feedback. One last try. Anthony, you there? Nope. Well, I've made his point anyway, so there we go.
He's a sleeping warrior at the moment.
Indeed.
Well, I got a good one for you to wrap up the Hitchcock puns. The ballers really hate the show today because Nathan is the man who knew too much.
Boom, boom! Any more for any more? Quantum.
And one thing before.
Go on.
Sorry, Nathan, you were saying something. I just say, remember yesterday we asked for a spanner in the works? Hashtag same team.
Say that again? I lost you there.
Remember yesterday before the show we asked for a spanner in the works? Hashtag same team.
I don't remember.
I'll explain later. Don't worry.
Okay. All right.
Did
you got me on that one.
Thanks.
Quantum.
Yeah.
Quantum, did you want to add something?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and you keep the same Boricua, which is off. Nathan, I got an opinion about the 10-year thing. I really doubt that in 10 years we will have people actually knowing the truth, just because I put an example. My sister is supposed to be a science teacher, and yet when I started asking her about, explaining about the scientific theories and regular theories, she was just theory is just a theory. It's I mean, it's just compound me how much. I mean, if the teacher doesn't know what a scientific theory is compared to what's actual theory, that where's science going? I mean, it's going down the drain. I mean, and everybody's going to be more delusional in 10 years than that actually they are.
Maybe. Pseudoscience, in my opinion, is going down the drain. Science is an empirical method. And with that, you can hear the conclusion of this discussion if you are watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, as the after show will start shortly. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live on Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, then this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and smashed the super chat. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you are watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Exactly. So I definitely think that's the problem. They don't have, the educators are not educated.
Yeah, find better school.
The gradient.
Look at Shaky, for instance. He's been here how long and he still doesn't get it. Right, Shaky?
Oh, I get it. Maybe you will also one day.
Hey, Chaiki, I'm glad you're here. So when I cited Andrew Thomas Young, and he said that all, not some, but all of his refraction calculations were done on the Atmo plane, but if you want to convert it to a sphere, go over here. How did he get the initial facts and readings?
Angles.
On a what?
Angles.
On
flat.
a what? He
Volume.
says the refraction. He says the calculations were done on angles, or does he say the calculations were done on a plane?
Done on a plane.
Yes.
Did I win?
Yep, you got it. So why, Chucky, why are you saying angle when that wasn't there?
Because you need the angle to have refraction. If you go through a single layer of material of the same density, there is no refraction. Go look.
So then refraction happens on the plane then. You admit it then.
Yes, above eye level, below eye level, not at eye level.
Hang on. No, I think we're onto something here. I'm glad you said that. So refraction happens on the plane based on Andrew Thomas Young, whatever level, however he did it. Let's just say it's true. So it can happen on the plane. That's what you just admitted, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So now, if you can show us the physical geometric horizon marked with an X on your Muppet Vision, the actual one, then maybe perhaps at that point we might be able to say it works on a sphere. But until you produce an actual geometric horizon, we're just on the plane, correct?
I didn't get what you said.
Okay, let me say it again. You agreed that all the refraction happens on the plane. And I'm saying you want to tell us, but we live on a sphere, correct?
If I want to tell you or not does not matter. You live on a
Okay,
sphere.
do we live on a sphere?
Hello.
Becky, do we live on the sphere or do we live on the plane? Can you answer that?
Yeah, we live on the sphere.
Good. So since Andrew Thomas Young proves that the refraction also happens on the plane prior to converting into a sphere, there's no difference, correct?
Depends what you mean by no difference.
Well, since all his calculations were achieved on a plane, not a sphere, and you saying we live on the sphere, I'm allowing you this opportunity to agree that they can happen on both, correct?
Sure.
Thank you. So please produce your geometric horizon, physical, marked with an X, for us to not beg the question of a sphere, but prove a sphere. Can you do that?
What do you mean produce?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Shaky, you make things real difficult, Shaky. Come on.
Yes, I am. Want to talk about the angles and perspective
and magnetism
and math?
You don't have them. They're not in your curve maths. Actual sizes only.
Yeah,
Didn't you know?
sure.
We covered it on the live show.
What is the angle?
Not in your curve maths.
What is the angle to the
It's not in your curve
sun?
maths. Just ignore it five more times, I would. It's not in your curve maths. What are you talking about? What angle? 7/6r isn't including angles. It includes the r value. That would be a geometric tangent point you don't have anymore. So what are you talking about, angles? There aren't any in your curve maths.
No, not curve math, flat math.
So what gives? You're asking us about angles and they're non-existent. Sorry, I've got a follow-on point. So they're non-existent in your curve maths, but you're asking us about them. So given that you know that angles and angular relationships exist, why aren't they in the curve maths?
No. So what is the angle to the sun?
So completely ignore my question then. Gonna kick you out?
Sure, I ignore your question.
Yeah, you did. Why are angles the thing you're asking us about not in curve maths? Why aren't they there? Clearly important. You're asking all about them.
Because they are not.
Not what?
They don't. They are.
He said they're not needed.
So why are you asking us about them then? If they're not needed, why would they be relevant? That was my point.
Yes, because you claim they are.
Yeah, angular relationships are absolutely occurring always.
Yeah, so what is the angle?
Sorry, they're not in your curve maths. We seem to be dancing around it and not addressing it. Yeah, I say they're relevant. Yeah, if you put your hand at arm's length and bring it closer to you, it gets bigger. That's angular size change. I'll ask again. Let's see if he skirts it for a third time. Why is that not in the curve maths, given that they're comparing curve maths? Like this picture on screen right now. This has been run through a curve maths calculator, and it didn't account for the fact that these buildings got smaller with distance, because they're very far away. And I want to know why you think it would be necessary to compare a picture that's clearly got... I'm going to just move the screen out of the way. It's got a duck in the foreground that is approximately... Shut up. Approximately 10 times the size of a 3-story building. Now that's an angular relationship between a duck and something very far away that's 10 times smaller. That's angular size, so it's absolutely in this picture. But this picture has been run through a curve maths calculator that ignored that completely. Now, we don't need to argue about whether or not we do need to account for it. It's a fact, it's on screen now. It's absolutely accountable in everything seen ever. So I want to know, given that it's always in effect, why it wouldn't be in the curve maths that's calculating how much we should or shouldn't see of buildings that are 10 times smaller than a duck in the foreground.
Yeah, so what is the angle to...
So ignore my question and ask me something. Why aren't there angles in the curve maths? 6th time I've asked. Why is the building being given a measurement in feet and inches that don't change in with distance in the curve maths? Why?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, then you're dumb. Then you're another one that's going to get kicked out. I've asked a concise question. It's been obfuscated 6 times, and now you're telling me you don't understand it. Then get out! What the hell are you doing here? Why are we surrounded by these dumb idiots that don't understand a simple question? He's asking us about angles. And I'm saying, all right, so you understand about angles enough to ask us questions about them. Why aren't they in the curves maths? 6 times later, I don't understand the question.
Time for him to go. He didn't even answer my question.
Why don't you say you don't understand why they're not in the curve maps? Because Nathan keeps saying that, but you don't seem to care about that. But then you keep asking about angles. Well, why are there no angles in your curve maps?
Now that you've asked the question, thank you, God Chocolate's here. Because they've hijacked that effect. And when things get too small to see, they call that effect Earth curve. Usually at the most limited angle, which is over the deck, that's where you lose things, i.e. the bottom of stuff. Well, they claim that's Earth curve. It ignores all effects of angular relationships, that would be perspective, and calls that very effect Earth curve. That's why, Chocolate. Thanks for asking.
No, because it's a giant duck, Nathan. Come on. It's a giant duck.
You must know that guy can see hair on 10 miles. And he said that yesterday evening, and he repeated that 10 times. That he can see hair on 10 miles with his.
Did you say he said he can see a strand of hair at 10 miles out?
Yeah, he said that 10 times, and he repeated that yesterday evening. I was like, because he was saying Nathan didn't know how much kilometer has in 1 meter, and it's 0.001, and then what? What then? Is that the problem? And I ask you, if you're normal, can you tell me that you can see the hair on 10 miles? And he said, yes, I can see hair.
This is Shaiki you're quoting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're perspective deniers. You know,
and he said that I have IQ like a 3, and I said, okay, I have IQ 3, but if you are saying that you can have hair, you can see hair on 10 miles, that means what the fuck you have? You don't have -3?
Oh, it's ludicrous. You lose a human hair, in feet, maybe yards. But 10 miles, see a human hair, you having me on? Absolutely
7 feet
absurd.
exactly, Nathan. I did it. 7 feet.
Yeah, I didn't ask you. Can you see
right
me
now,
on 10 miles?
and I see a bunch of trees with leaves on them, but at the farther distance, I can't resolve any leaves on that tree, so I don't know what he's talking about. I have no idea, and I'm driving.
Right.
Yesterday we were speaking about gravity, how gravity is not a force. He first said it is not a force, then he said it is a force, and we said, okay, it is a force, how you can prove that? And he started to speak about magnetism.
You want to know what the really scary part is? That you're discussing what you discussed with Chaiki? That's the scary part.
Why do we have to be surrounded by complete idiots? I don't understand your question. Let's ask you about angles again. Why are we surrounded by dumbos?
Because dumbos believe in the globe Earth.
No, it's a carnival tent. You know it. You've been here.
Dumb people.
Yeah, I knew it from day one. Ball Earth Circus.
What's the angle to the sun? At night. That's what he was trying to say. What's the angle to what kind of question is that? And let me ask you a question. Another question on top of that. What are you basing your angle to the sun off of? Refracted horizon. Maybe. They can't even think 2 steps down the line, let alone 18. Right? It's clown show.
No, not the refracted horizon. The other one, the one you can't see. That one.
Oh, the geometric horizon, only in existence in the mathematics, cannot be seen, cannot be measured to, arbitrary position in the ocean, not depicting anything, not demarcating anything. That horizon, the one that doesn't exist.
Yes.
Oh, you know what? The horizon we see is within 5% of that one that we can't see, can't measure, doesn't exist. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yep.
Hello, are we alive?
Hello, Spurs.
Thank you,
Hi.
Spurs.
We are alive.
I just wanted
yes.
to ask. Hi, yeah. I wanted to ask. I don't know if any ballers are here. Zanik is here. Hopefully, he's here. Or you can just think about this question I want to ask Zanik, because we're trying to say that Einstein superseded Newton. Mass doesn't attract mass. So Mr. Scott and that going back and forth, but it is a force. It's not a force. So
Spurs, the new black is that gravity is a reification fallacy.
Is the attraction in the object or outside of the object? Zanik, or any baller? So if we got the ball, is the attraction from within?
He didn't listen
from
to
without?
you. You're getting Sleeping Warrior. Ask him again. It answers your question, Spurs. Go ahead, Sleeping Warrior.
Oh, I can't.
Spurs, the new black about gravity is forget about whether it's a force or whether it's an effect. The new black on gravity is that gravity is a reification fallacy, Spurs. They're trying to make something that's conceptual into a real thing, and that's reification.
Right. Oh, yeah, I heard you talk about that, yeah. They're going to say, no, that's why I would just over with them now saying, is it a... So I said, look, we've superseded this Newtonian. They're like, no, it's still a force. It's mass attracting mass. So that's why I'm asking, is it from within? Because I said to him, if I've got my hand on a ball, basketball, I've got half a meter apart, will the ball be attracted to my hand? They were like, they didn't want to answer it. So I said, is the attraction from within my hand? Mr. Scott, first he said, yes, it's in your hand. Then he said, no, it's not in your hand. And then they just wouldn't commit to whether the source or is from within. Because what I was going to say was, if it's how to understand Einstein is that you've got your hand, the ball, they won't attract one another. You put your hand, the ball on a trampoline. You put the ball, you press on the trampoline with your hand, the ball rolls towards your hand. So if they're going to say it rolled because of an attraction, not because of the bending of the trampoline, then did that force come from within my hand or outside of my hand? So that's what I want Zanik or any of the ball out there, if they can.
Let's just see if Anthony's got anything else to add. Do you want to reiterate your point, Anthony, or what? I've got a point, if not.
It's just a reification fallacy, Spurs. The more they talk about it, the more it seems to exist. The more they think that it exists. It's a reification fallacy, Spurs. It's the best example of reification that we can come to. Forget trampolines and all that. Just keep saying to them, it's reification.
Paul,
I've got something.
Hold on, Spurs. Hold on. Just one sec. Paul, go ahead.
I know what it is. It's a time differential. That's the cause. That's it. Time differential. You got pressure differential. The cause of gravity is a time differential. So remember that thing I talked about earlier about the time moving faster at your head and slower at your feet? It's that time differential that's causing it. Come on.
Yeah, remember me telling you that time doesn't cause things? Us arbitrarily assigning integers to that which can't cause anything?
Yeah.
Anyway, Spurs. Let me just try and give you an analogy that's not gravity. So if I explain to you, you've seen... Go ahead. Who's in G+? Go ahead. Anyone in G+? Or is that just Anthony causing feedback?
I'm on mute.
Okay. Sorry. Anyway, if I explain to you, and like you have done, pose a question about how time dilation works as you traverse the wardrobe into Narnia. And you and I discuss this at length until you understand completely exactly how that time dilation works. In other words, you understand the process and mechanism and forces involved that stop the children from actually aging, even though they are aging in Narnia. Now, I can spend a good hour explaining this to you so you understand it implicitly. So I just need a quick agreement. Do you understand that I can reach a stage with you where you understand the mechanism of how that works, i.e. does work?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So given that I can spend an hour explaining how it works, now work meaning to do something, does that mean that we ever have or experience time dilation working and doing anything ever?
Not if it's there. No, of course
Excellent. This time dilation described by gravity, which would also be conceptual mediums of time being bent, that's akin to Narnia. It's not a real place they're describing, just a conceptual place. And when you've got a question within it about how a ball responds to your hand, you're only ever going to be describing it in space-time or in Narnia by analogy. So even though they can maybe give you a really good explanation about your time differential between your feet and your head as you traverse the medium of time, it's the same as me detailing the time dilation in Narnia. Understanding it doesn't give it any power or force. It doesn't mean it actually does any real work, just because you can get it to conceptually work.
And that's what they're trying to do right now. They've just it's bizarre because I did say it's superseded. There's no more Newtonian. There's no mass attracting mass. They're not having it. They're still trying to find some kind of. It's bizarre to say the least. So
yeah, can I say 9 months causing pregnancy?
Go on, Anthony.
Spurs, they can't deny the current physics that is cited to be Albert Einstein. They need to deny it because they need a force, because they haven't got explanations for things like the atmosphere. Not that gravity would do it anyway, but at least if you can tell somebody that a microscopic force is enough to hold the atmosphere on, at least it makes intuitive sense that it's possible, right? Regardless of whether it can actually do it or not. But if they haven't got gravity as a force, then they haven't got any model. But because gravity is Albert Einstein's effect, then they need to deny that because they need force. They need the force of gravity, Spurs. So the issue is them denying Einstein. Now, we don't really give a shit whether Einstein's like right or not, but they've got to argue the current physics. So our argument really is that Einstein's gravity is reification. But they've got to at least argue for Albert Einstein, but they can't argue for Newton because he's been replaced.
Sorry, the point that you were making about it being a reification, i.e. taking that which is not real and making it into something that's concrete in the real world, that reification factor just got a bit rumpus by Spurs. But yeah, feel free to respond, Spurs.
But why would they why not just accept Einstein? Why are they holding on to this Newtonian? I mean, it doesn't work.
They need a force, Spurs. Albert Einstein's is an effect. That's no good to them if they want to explain how planets orbit and how the moon orbits the Earth and how expensive mobile phones fall from your hands. They need a force. They need something to attract it. Otherwise, they can't explain it.
Hold on. Einstein explains all of this. I don't see what you're saying doesn't make sense because
the difference is when they drop a mobile phone, they say that the Earth's mass is attracting the mobile phone towards it. But Albert Einstein says that gravity isn't the attractive force between masses. It's actually the mobile phone falling out your hand. The effect, not the cause.
I'd like to say something on this.
Just hold on, Brian. Hold on. Do you understand this, or do you need it given an analogy? It's how an effect is not the cause. Do you understand so far, Spurs, or are you disagreeing? What?
No, I get that, but I'm trying to figure out why they would go with Newtonian when Einstein makes sense perfect. With
okay.
Any other?
Hold on. Anthony's answer. Hold on.
Can I
Anthony,
try
hold on.
Nathan with
Hello.
one sentence?
Hold on. Anthony's answered you because they need a force. That's it. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you. Well, just to answer what Boris says there, most of the people we deal with go with Newtonian because they don't understand Einsteinian. That's the problem with them.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Spurs, you know the F equals ma equation, Newton's law of motion, right?
Yes.
Well, if gravity is a Newtonian force, that would be the F that equals an accelerating mass. So if you have an accelerating mass, that's equal to a force. That would be gravity. Makes sense, right? But Einstein's put the force on the other side of the equation. So now Albert Einstein says that gravity is the ma bit. It's on the right-hand side of the equals. That's gravity. But that means that they haven't got a force, the F. They need that F because gravity's on the other side of the equation now. Do you see?
Albert Einstein wrote it different.
All the time, F equal ma is false. all that time while
But
F
Einstein's
equals
equations
NA
E
is
equal-
false. By the way.
Oh, QE, they've got an equation for you over there. Actually, when you speak to Jeremy, he managed to get an equation from them for the moon and the tides or something to that effect. He was asking them just not so long ago. So, get in
Ace.
contact with Jeremy.
Okay, let's remind the audience. Sorry, QE, I know you want to respond. So we've challenged them to provide an Einsteinian equation, that would be his field equations, that can solve for, this is Brian's point, the moon and Earth having tidal effects. Now, given that the Einsteinian maths cannot solve for more than one mass, this is a certitude. It is impossible to do with Einsteinian maths. But they're claiming they can. Excellent. This sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, I can go and have a look. They posted a PDF, but I didn't want to click on the link. But so
PDF?
Yeah, they said it was a massive equation or something. Well, I wanted to get on with Jeremy. He was really going through it with them. Let me scroll.
Hold on. I don't know. Why did that get a laugh? He said massive equation. You laughed.
Yeah, it's not. Why should it be a PDF? It's just a simple equation. It's not simple, but I don't need a PDF. It's an
Let me try
equation.
and get it up. Knowing them, it's probably not what he asked for.
Jeremy, who?
He usually goes into 24/7. Just Jeremy, we know him as. He's been asking this a lot. This equation.
Just
this formula
Jeremy,
as well.
I know him as. I don't. Gem Panda?
No. Jeremy, yeah. Let me just
okay.
scroll. I'm just scrolling up now. I am.
Where are you at? In Discord?
No, I'm looking in Gems. They posted this. They were talking about this morning, and then they posted something. They were like, "Look at this, Jeremy. Here's the equation that you're looking for." So Jeremy was like, "Give me the equation, and I'll take it to people who can understand it." So they posted something, but I've just got to scroll up and find it.
Oh, somebody emailed me. It's on archive.
Oh, you've got it, yeah?
Yeah, it's on archive. What does it do? Well, somebody published it?
No, let me just try to find it.
Can you fill us in? Hold on. Can you fill us in? What is it? This PDF, right?
It's a study in archive. Hold on a second. Let me make sure that that's what he's talking about. 1 second.
No worries. Can we talk amongst ourselves just while Kiwi peruses that document again? Or refamiliarizes himself with it?
I got a message that they just told me this solves for the moon and earth tides using Einstein. Okay?
Oh, I can't wait.
So, solar system dynamics and general relativity. Solar, where at?
Baz was in there as well. I don't know if you saw it.
That this is a study, right? In archive.
Don't attack me. I'm just saying that's what they produced. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I didn't really look at it.
It's got 20 pages.
Got 20 pages, Spurs. What are you doing?
Here, I'll give it to you, Nathan. Check this out. I'll put it in Ballbusters.
Thank you very much. No, we're not attacking the messenger, Spurs. We're not that dumb. We know you haven't done this.
While you're figuring that out, I just want to let you know, I found that my unicorn by the lamppost grazing on skittle trees.
Skittle trees?
Yeah, that's what I found. That's why I feed it Skittles, because there was in Narnia. There's skittle trees in Narnia next to the lamppost. Just saying.
It's just a funny coincidence. I was mentioning how good they are for animals earlier on in the show.
Yeah, they're not. Did you hear about like?
They're great for unicorns, though.
They actually fed cattle Skittles at some point, like secretly, in America. I don't know. Maybe it's just crazy media stories, but
if only cows could talk, we'd know how much they tasted the rainbow.
That resulted in mad cow disease, I think.
No, that was them feeding them themselves. No, they alleged that was because they were feeding them their own kind. Feeding cow to cow.
Oh.
The only beast I know that ate Skittles was Beast Mode from the Seattle Seahawks, and he didn't get the ball on the goal line.
But see, the beautiful thing is when you feed it Skittles, it poops out cupcakes. That's the beautiful thing.
In Narnia, that's correct.
Okay.
Could I just make my point I was going to make earlier concerning the gravity thing before going?
You're a bit quiet, Brian.
The problem. Sorry, I just want to make the point I wanted to make earlier concerning what Spurs was asking about gravity. The main problem that they have is that they only account for one vector with all their explanation of this, of what, because it never accounts for up. Everything is always down. There's two vectors that things go. Matter goes down and matter goes up in accordance with its density and the density of its medium. So that's why they don't have anything. Gravity is not even worth, like I was going to say this some time ago on the show, it's not even worth speaking about because it's a nothing, it's not real.
Correct. So same applies to when they say weight. When they say weight, they're just using a ham-handed segue to gravity. And again, it's in the same vector. It's just down, right?
Exactly, yes.
So you've got the PDF, right? Is that why I'm just...
You excited about this? Me too, Spurs. Yes,
Well, I was just thinking. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing. One thing about this time dilation. That's why time has to accelerate because you have to have two differential times. Because if you're standing still, you have to have an acceleration that before. So if you can have time at different vectors, then there's your acceleration. I just thought of that.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's exactly right. So if you don't have anything moving or accelerating, well, just generate that inertia in a conceptual medium of time. Well, we're moving through time. What? Well, isn't that just to get around for the fact that we're not moving? Yeah, of course it is.
Gotta go back in time.
What was the thing, Paul, you said about time at your feet and your head being higher? What was that statement?
He's describing Einsteinian mechanics.
No, but he said something slower, something's faster. Which one was it?
It's faster at your head than it is at your feet. So if you're technically time is moving. That's why your hairs are gray. That's why.
No, don't laugh. This gets extended out into the rhetoric. So when they have time differential issues with claim to be orbiting satellites, they account for it with this. So this is absolutely part of the rhetoric. They claim it proves it too. They claim the satellites orbiting in a non-existent place have these time differentials, and that proves that Einstein was right. That's what they claim in mainstream bullshit.
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson said there are satellites that are corrected for Einstein's general theory of relativity.
There you go.
See, when I describe it the way I'm describing it, it sounds silly. But if you write it out in an equation, it makes perfect sense.
Or stick the thing that's being accounted for, i.e. in this example from Neil deGrasse Tyson, the satellites, out somewhere that cannot be verified and doesn't even exist, and make your example with that, not your head and your feet, because then people will very much conceptualize his reification of this nonsense and go, hang on, that sounds really silly. Stick it out in space, it doesn't even exist, and people go, oh yeah, wow, it's Neil deGrasse Tyson, so smart. Einstein, wow.
And I did say, I mean, they're going to come up with an equation. I did think this would happen. I mean, what next? They come up with an equation and say this is how it works.
No, you're not getting it. No. We've already got Einstein's field equation, Spurs. We already know their parameters. You don't seem to recognise that. Typically, when QE's asking somebody a question, he's not asking because he wants to know. It's like when politicians, they don't ask questions they don't already know the answers to. You follow that, right?
Right.
We already know the answer to this equation problem that they're faced with. So at any stage, we can make the declaration, they will not achieve this, and then we'll explain why. Why? Well, because Einstein's field equations can't solve for more than one mass. Is Earth a mass? Yeah, according to them, one mass in their solar system. And is the moon a mass? Yeah, according to them, that light in the sky is a mass. So that's, let's count them. 1, 2. Is that more than one? Bears.
Right.
So Einstein field equations can't deal with this, like curve calculators can't deal with angular sizes. It's outside of its parameters, and we already know that.
We've got them by the kahoonies then, or something.
It's so dead it's untrue, Spurs. The globe model. That's why when someone was like, I don't know, about 10 years, it's like, well, going by the amount of kids that know about it already, well, I'm thinking that will just get worse and worse and worse. People's awareness, that is, of the globe lie, worse and worse for the globe.
Mm-hmm.
It gets worse than that, Spurs. Right? It gets worse than just the moon and the tides. They have to also explain the seasons.
So if Paul could do an equation for Skittles and unicorns in his backyard, the Globers would accept it?
Well, you'd accept the work within that medium if his medium was described as Narnia, which I think he did. If he now describes it as backyard, I've now got to say, no, Paul, no! Don't reify this nonsense.
Well,
But see, that's what they would.
Apparently, when you do calculations and equations, you prove things. Like Mr. Neil Smoked Grass Tyson says, we know they went to the moon because they were able to calculate how much fuel they would need to go to the moon. Therefore, we went to the moon.
Perfect. So, Chemo, are you still there?
Yeah.
If I calculate, there was an example given earlier on the show about somebody wrestling and time, i.e. the count, when the guy's pinned, not being the cause of the guy being pinned. Well, if I do all of the mathematics for the energy exerted and the time duration between each move and the physical mechanics of the body, everything, I calculate it all. I'm never gonna, that's impossible. But let's say I claim I have calculated it all. Does that cause the guy to get pinned?
Right.
I've explained it though, haven't I? Very, very detailed explanation.
Which is what they do, yeah.
Did you get their
Hold on, I made my point yet. So it's an explanation, is it? You agreeing with me? You nodding or not?
It's just an explanation. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's a description. Science explains things. Maths describes things.
Okay.
So it's not explaining the why. Why did the bone move into that position? Well, it's because of this amount of energy being burned, and I describe what's happened. But does it explain that the guy decided that I think he's going to make this move next? No, it doesn't explain it. You can't explain these things with maths. You can only describe them. And in the case of Einstein, he's describing something that happens. My point, so close. Einstein's describing something in Narnia. So far removed from ever being an explanation from something in reality, it's untrue, Spurs. Nearly got my point through concisely. Nearly.
Mm-hmm. But I can just hear them now. We make predictions. We make predictions, Nathan. They make predictions. What about those predictions that they make?
What predictions? They don't make predictions. They don't make predictions. Hold on.
Go on.
You said predictions, right? That means they have to have a hypothesis because that's a scientific prediction. So whenever you hear the term prediction, always say, what's the hypothesis? What's the independent, dependent variables? Always.
Only if we're dealing with the physical reality of our world. That would be dealt with physics, not maths. So are you talking about prediction in an abstraction? That would be mathematical. Or are you talking about a prediction that applies to reality? That would be physical. Now, one's dealt with by the abstraction of mathematics, describing things, not explaining them. And the other explains them in physical reality. That's physics, science versus maths. So my question to you, Spurs, is when you say that they've got predictions, are they quasi predictions in an arena that doesn't exist? That's maths. Or are they scientific predictions?
I think they would, again, I'm just going by what I've heard from them, which is they predict like eclipses, they can predict planets appearing, comets, things like this, based on the numbers, right? All the numbers give them predictive capability.
Based on the
of when a
Babylonians,
star-
they ain't predicting anything.
This is first. I predict
No,
my
I mean, I'm sure
birthday.
they
hold
are,
on.
that's
What
what they
say
would
you?
say,
Hold on,
right?
let Kiwi make his point. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, they predicted them based on the Babylonians, right? There's no prediction here. If you look at a clock, right, for 300 years, and at the end of the 300th year, the first day, you say, well, the hour hand after it hits 1 is gonna hit 2. That's not a prediction. Follow?
Right.
That's
Just
what's
recognizing.
happening.
Yeah, they're just recognizing patterns, man.
Yeah, and
I'm
we can
trying
move
to
off
think
of this
how
because it's
they
so
say it,
nonsensical.
though,
I put the document in Ballbusters. If you just want to pull up and have everyone read the abstract of a archive study, this is so non sequitur. It's preposterous.
I mean, again, it is crazy because even if I were to try to argue for it and think, well, how are they making predictions of anything? It's still not a prediction. It's just like you observe it over time. Like someone just said, a pattern will happen. But yeah, the prediction side, they live and die by the predictions they see. We make predictions all the time. So, but yeah, you're right, absolutely right. There's no mathematics.
Tell me when you got it up.
I've got it up. I'm just reading it. Go ahead. If you've got a particular
Do you
part.
have it on screen?
Yeah, I'm on the very first paragraph before the introduction.
Yeah. Well, so we asked them to give us the solutions from Einstein's field equations for the tides or for the moon causing the tides on the Earth. Right? Here we go. We got a solar system dynamics in general relativity from Archive. Right? Remember, this isn't a peer-reviewed paper, by the way. So, recent work in the literature has advocated using the Earth-Moon planetoid Lagrangian points as observables in order to test general relativity and effective field theories of gravity in the solar system. However, since the three-body problem of classical celestial mechanics is just an approximation of a much more complicated setting, where all celestial bodies in the solar system are subject to their mutual gravitational interactions, while solar radiation pressure and other sources of non-gravitational perturbations also affect the dynamics, it is conceptually desirable to improve the current understanding of solar system dynamics and general relativity as a first step towards a more accurate theoretical study of orbital motion in the weak gravity regime. For this purpose, starting from the Einstein equations in the D. Donder-Laxos gauge, this paper arrives first at the Levi-Civita Lagrangian for the geodesic motion of celestial bodies, showing in detail under which conditions the effects of internal structure and finite extension get canceled in general relativity to first Newtonian order. Want to see that? The resulting nonlinear ordinary differential equations for the motion of planets and satellites are solved for the Earth's orbit about the Sun. Written down in detail for the Sun-Earth-Moon system and investigated for the case of planar motion of a body immersed in the gravitational field produced by the other bodies, for example, planets with their satellites. At this stage, we prove an exact property according to which the fourth-order time derivative of the original system leads to a linear system of ordinary differential equations. This opens up an interesting perspective on forthcoming research in planetary motions and general relativity within the solar system, although the resulting equations remain a challenge for numerical and qualitative studies. Last, the evaluation of quantum corrections, quantum corrections to location of collinear and non collinear Lagrangian points for the planar restricted three-body problem is revisited, and a new set of theoretical values of such corrections for the Earth-Moon planetoid system is displayed and discussed. On the side of classical values, the general relativity correction to Newtonian values for the collinear and non-collinear Lagrangian points of the Sun-Earth planetoid system are also obtained. There you go.
So in short,
if
they're
you
claiming
posted a frigging bread box.
That's not an equation. So that's the first point.
More coherent. My
Let
word.
me know when it's okay for me to ask one question.
Yeah, what's light?
Yep.
Go ahead. What's
Particle.
your question?
Good show, guys.
So, what you got to do here, it doesn't talk about the question at all. Does anyone see tides in here? Number one.
No, there's no tides.
No.
Number two, scroll down to Lagrangian of the n-body problem in general relativity. We're going to take a look. Everyone's going to see Einstein's equation for the first time.
Okay.
R u sub uv minus 1/2 g sub uv r equals 8 pi big G subscript n over C4 T subscript uv. This is tensor equation, right? So when you come with your bullshit the next time, we want values. We want somebody from the ball-tard ball side to come here and tell us each of these tensors, the energy momentum tensor, all of them, we want them to explain what they mean exactly. That's what we need with this equation right here. Not this bullshit that doesn't speak to our question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
We want to know, we want to see somebody solve the equation that shows the tides being affected, the tides here on Earth being affected by the moon. That's what we need.
Perfect. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the primary stream audience for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!